What is happening, everybody? Chris with Devo's Woodcraft here. After thousands of emails and messages and comments, we're gonna do the top things that I use in this shop. It's gonna be real fast paced. We're gonna be going through the tools, telling you how I got the tool, how much I paid for it, what it retails for, how much I like the tool. And we're also gonna be comparing those tools in the big shop and the little shop. A lot of the little shop tools I still use here, but the goal is to show you what I used in the small shop that worked for me, and then also what works for me here. So let's jump right to it. This is the number one asked about item here is, what is this? It is a Jet 770-pound scissor lift. So out of Baltic birch, I just made a little torsion style table. This one leaks, this one doesn't. They're absolutely the most handy thing in the shop. I don't know what I would do without them. This is a JLT James Taylor 12-foot clamp rack. It can clamp up to 5 tiers. Each clamp is 40 inches long, and this thing is 12 foot wide. I put casters on it so I can pull it out if need be and clamp a little extra on the outsides. Also a JLT roller spreader glue roller. This thing is a lot of money, but when you're doing huge glue ups, it's really hard to beat. This is a 6-inch nap, and you can go a long ways with this. I use these little paint cut-in trays for all my glue cleanup. I use this Bates glue release to get all the glue off. It works really well. The Laguna LT 24x24 is probably one of my favorite tools in the shop. 24 throat, 24 height. Huge cast wheels. It is an Italian-made bandsaw. It's 5 horsepower single phase, has a brake, and probably the most asked about part of this would be the power feeder. It has 2 speeds and 5 different belt adjustments for speed. I run this ducting with magnets onto the table because bandsaws inherently are not good at dust collecting. And here's its little brother. This is the LT Laguna Industrial Bandsaw. Now I've set this one up for scrolling with these parabolic rods. Also made in Italy. This machine I bought used, it was made in 2003. It has cast iron wheels, a 17-inch throat, 13-inch resaw. Also has the brake. This is my first bandsaw I bought new. Now don't get me wrong, this Grizzly is a good bang for the buck machine, but it just doesn't compare to these Italian-made industrial bandsaws. The quality, the fit and finish, the features, it is a big difference. And I can't really speak for Laguna's classic line of bandsaw machinery, the BX series. I've only had their industrial series, 16-inch throat and a 12-inch resaw. This is their Extreme series. It does have thinner cast iron wheels. I really don't like the roller guides on here. I much prefer the ceramics from Laguna. The Grizzly is a 2 horsepower saw. This is a 3 horsepower saw. That one is a 5. I believe this machine now comes in 5 horsepower from Laguna. What can I say? I absolutely love these fold-out tables. These metal sawhorses with adjustable legs are the way to go. This one says DeWalt. This one says Stanley FatMax. They're the same thing. My DeWalt tools, I love them. I've been using DeWalt cordless tools for 25 years now, and these new FlexVolt series, that is just the way to go for me. The FlexVolt works with 60 volt or 20 volt. But you can't put a 20 volt battery in a 60 volt saw. So now we're gonna go over this pretty fast here. I try to buy everything in the XR series, the brushless. 20 volt jigsaw, angle drill, oscillating tool with a sanding head on it, 3/8 impact, 1/2 inch impact. This thing is a beast. It will rip your lug nuts off, so you gotta be careful. 20 volt sawzall. It has the head in there that can fit the blade at a 90-degree or straight up and down. Drywall screw gun. Luckily I don't have to do much of that anymore. Drills. The XR series with the metal chucks, definitely the way to go. Sometimes you can never have enough drills when you're doing jobs that require lots of bits at the same time. Having a handheld shop vac works really well sometimes. There's screw guns, power mode 1 to 3. Those things are a little beast. You gotta be careful. Grinders, this is the FlexVolt 60 volt. This one's a beast. This one's a little more manageable. Love those grinders. Flashlights, you can never have enough light sometimes. These routers are the same routers. You can buy this optional plunge base, which is a really nice lightweight router. It works really well, and it has adjustable speed. The 60 volt skill saw literally cut and built a whole aluminum boat. This is a tank of a saw. I have put these tools to the test, and I love these DeWalt tools. So I got about $4,000 worth of DeWalt tools for like maybe $700–800. It was a crazy deal. Through DeWalt days up here, you returned some old tools and you got rebates towards the purchase of a new tool up to half of the price of the tool. We went out and we found a collection of like 60 broken grinders for almost nothing and turned them all in and got a crazy discount. Now, to be fair to all you Milwaukee fans, I've just never used one, so I can't compare. Another one of the top tools that I have, top 3 tools that I have, is this 20-year-old Bulgarian-made Laguna TSS sliding table saw. It's a 12-inch table saw, 3 horsepower. It is a beast of a machine. I picked this up in the big package deal of Laguna tools, and I'd say it cost me somewhere around $2,000. One of my biggest scores. The main issue with this is having the fence on here. It's really hard to rip things because there's a conflict. My old little friend here, this is my DeWalt little job site table saw. They're great little saws. When I was a finished carpenter, the guy I worked with, my buddy Ian, we built some phenomenal stuff with this table saw. The really nice thing about this is having the rack and pinion style fence on both sides. Old slider that I made for this. This is all set up for doing my cheese board slicers. Can never have enough tape measures. I used to prefer these classic Stanleys, but now I prefer these little rounder, smoother ones. These fast cap ones, they're okay. They have a pencil sharpener on there. You can write on the top of here. I just don't really like the way the clips work and everything. If you're framing a house, you're gonna want a Fat Max. Having a forklift in a shop this big is essential. I picked it up used from the dealer and they let me drive it for 3 months here in the shop before purchasing it. The amazing thing about this forklift is that it can spin on its own radius. It has 1 motor per wheel, providing equal power to the front wheels. Has a 3-phase charger. I believe it was made in the early 90s. The batteries alone would cost what I paid for it if I had to replace those batteries. One of my favorite, if not my favorite, small shop tool is the DW735 DeWalt job site planer. This is crucial to have in the small shop and the big shop. Now this does have the Byrd helical head in it, which is a night and day difference when you're doing a lot of hardwoods, especially figured wood. But also, compared to the big Laguna, this does leave a nicer finish. I actually do my big 8-foot cutting board runs, and I'll do a final pass through here. And just like the drum sander, putting these little Wixy gauges on them is a great accessory to have. The DeWalt stand for this, which it's designed to fit this, is a great little stand. In the small shop it wasn't needed, but in the big shop it really helps. Probably my second most favorite tool in the shop here. This is the Laguna P25 Industrial planer, 15 horsepower, 3-phase, variable speed, programmable table height, has the 174 cutter head ShearTech Laguna cutter head in it. It's an amazing unit. The 2 main issues I have with it is you can remove a lot more material than you want accidentally because it's such a beast. The second issue, which is a really big issue, is the snipe. It has a large amount of snipe, which I don't think you can get away from on any planer. I love having these Woodpecker hook rulers. I just use a magnet to clip them on there. Put them where you need them. It's surprising how much I use that straightage. It's a great tool. You don't have to buy Woodpeckers, but you need to buy a quality square. Having squares that you know are actually square makes all the difference. Now TSO sent that to me. That square is really awesome. It's really hard to duplicate having a square that large, and it comes into play all the time. Most of the time when you get a speed square like this from the big box store, they aren't perfectly square, and some of them can actually be pretty bad. This Empire brand seems to be pretty consistent, fairly close for the most part. And this one is actually square, but you know you can trust one of these. This is a JessEm router table. I bought this used. It works really well. It's nice having the switch here, the adjustable table, although this one was fairly used. This table isn't perfectly flat. I do like how you can do the stops and stuff on there. I would just rather do my routing by hand and push the router over the material than push the material over the router. But there's many occasions where you have to use a router table. Apparently these have some of the best reviews. I had this DeWalt router in the router table and the bearings already went out on it. It's kind of surprising. This one does not have a variable speed. This Bosch router with the variable speed has been a great little unit. It's hard to beat having one of these in the shop, especially when you're solo. This one is by Bora. It's adjustable height. This is 2 of them put together. They are fairly cheaply made, but when I need to use this, it's definitely nice to have in the bigger shop. I use these Bora racks for curing my cutting boards. When they're in the 8-foot runs, they work really good for lumber storage. They are cheap, but they are cheap, so they work decent. This is called a PS3 Laguna Industrial Profile Sander. It's a very specific tool. That's as fast as it goes. but for big flat surfaces like that, it does really well. I bought it thinking I was gonna be able to do outside radiuses of cutting boards. It's just much easier by hand. It's fairly expensive. The sandpaper is really expensive. I just don't use it enough. This came in the package deal of used Laguna equipment that I got. This is a little Grizzly combo sander. I've been looking for a bigger industrial disc only. There's rubbing issues on the fit and finish on these, but this unit is just okay. And for the money between this and the little buck tool that I used in the small shop, that little buck tool combo sander was great. Really love that one. These little 8-inch buck tool grinders work really well. They're really inexpensive. I have this one set up for my lathe stuff. These are really good bang for the buck unit. Not my favorite tool. This is the South Bend 9-inch belt. I believe it's 138 inches and a half around. 3 horsepower. This is their industrial sander. Really, it's made by Grizzly, even though it says South Bend. When I bought this, it was supposed to have a cast iron table. It only has an aluminum table, and using aluminum is not like using cast iron. I put a melamine top on it. It is a beast of a sander. The quality of this sander is just not great. I had bearings fall out of the oscillator in it within the first 2 months. Big issues with the paper rubbing against everything. It is an absolute necessity to have in the shop. I paid full price for it. Probably cost me $800 just to ship it up to Alaska. If I could find a really sweet old one, that would be awesome. When I was building this shop in the middle of COVID, all edge sanders were sold out. This was literally the only large edge sander that I could buy. Along the lines of the buck tool grinder is the Wind Products. This is a tiny little spindle sander. They're really cheap, and it works decently well. I just picked up this jet spindle sander. This is a 1 horsepower JOVS 10 spindle sander. These are about $2,200 new, and I got it for $500. This is an amazing spindle sander. Another Facebook find. Now it's time to talk about the green Kool-Aid. What amazing system Festool has. The Domino, it is an amazing tool. When I was a finished carpenter, I built a bunch of cabinets with this and the Conturo. This is the Duplex LS 130 EQ. This sander will do what a lot of other things won't do. You can even mold these to how you want them. So my main sanders are the Rotex 150. This has a fully locked mode where it's a forced orbital and then it has a random orbital. The ETS 150 in the 5mm, this also has a 5mm stroke. This one is random orbital only, but it is a beast. It is an absolute beast. I love this sander. And then they make the lighter version, which this has a 3mm stroke, and it's actually a pretty big difference between these two sanders on how aggressive they are. And where would we be if we didn't have the track saw? I use this for straight lining all my material. It is so versatile between being able to build cabinets and rip down big slabs. Having multiple size tracks is awesome. And if you need more length, I like the TSO connectors. I pretty much paid retail for all of these. I did find one of these used for a great deal. It was like $300. I have 2 of these CT36 vacuums because sometimes I need to go between 2 sanders without having to change it. I did also find one of these used for like $250. It was a smoking deal. When you do a lot of sanding, these boom arms are where it's at, but they're not cheap. I really don't use these feet arms that they have, but these can get tippy and fall over on you. These are the Festool block sanders. This one takes the 6-inch paper, then this one takes the same paper as the Duplex. I love those block sanders. And I do use all Festool sandpaper. This is a great little router. Lots of accessories you can get for this. These are Festool MFT tables. Another tool I don't know what I would do without. When I need to, I can fold them up and stash them. I use this as a fixture table for clamping all of my cutting board. This one is turned into a downdraft table just by adding a base and some sides. The downdraft table, so this is where I do all of my routing. This is an older model. I picked it up for about $250. I believe I paid $300 for this one. Even though Festool is expensive, I do feel like these are irreplaceable. Unlike the DeWalt stuff that I love, you can buy Milwaukee. But when I was a finished carpenter, we built phenomenal custom cabinets with all Festool stuff. Ian abused them for years and years, and they just run. And I think they make the best sanders on the market. Just like the MFT table, a fixture table for welding is a really nice tool to have. I picked up this one used. I picked it up for about $450. I believe they're about $800 with the legs, plus you have to weld them. These come in a flat pack. I hope to use this more soon. Balder Industrial Buffer. It's a 3/4 horsepower, spins at 3,600 RPM. This is another one of those deals. I paid $225 for it, and I believe they go for somewhere around $1,300 retail. I would urge anybody who wants to start welding to go do it. It is awesome, and it isn't as hard as how mysterious it can be. Watch some YouTube videos, go out and buy a cheap welder, buy some safety gear and get started. I bought my first welder when I was 18. You can get away with a lot with a saddling cutting torch and a chop saw. There's many different brands of these. Find these anywhere for like $100. They're loud, they're obnoxious, they throw a lot of sparks, but they do the job. This is the Lincoln TIG 200 square wave. It's a TIG welder and stick welder. I got this on a deal. I don't remember what I paid for it, but they're a lot more money now. This unit's really loud. It can't do really thick material, but it's a great all-around unit. The square wave 200 will do stainless, aluminum, and mild steel. This is a Miller 252. We bought this to build our boats. It does aluminum and steel. We bought this instead of the 350 because it was a lot less money, although it does not have the pulse. I believe it'll weld 1/2-inch plate, no problem, in steel. When we bought this, we got a deal on it as well. It was on sale. But the Illuma Pro 25-foot whip push-pull gun for aluminum costs just as much as the welder. And you pretty much need that gun to be able to weld aluminum. This is another one of my ridiculous finds. This is a Powermatic drill press. This is the older version, which I believe has better reviews than the newer version. It's a 1 horsepower. I put it on a mobile base like everything else. I believe these are about $1,800 new, and I picked this up for $225. The start switch didn't work, and it was just wired wrong, and it's been great. I've used it a bunch. It's been a great drill press. Having a quality moisture meter, definitely worth its weight in gold. These are not cheap, but they are well worth it. These DeWalt storage boxes for nuts and bolts and screws and fittings, these are just the best. These are the Grizzly in-feed outfeed rollers, so they're adjustable height. And then you have an option between these ball bearings and the main roller. You got to be careful of the ball bearings. If your material is heavy enough, it will put little dents in your material. These things are great. They're always in my way, but they're awesome to have. This little jet lathe, this benchtop jet lathe, I got a great deal on it for a Black Friday sale. They're an awesome little lathe. I've really enjoyed using it. It's probably my newest machine in here. This is the Laguna JX8 with the ShearTech cutter head. I get my discount from Laguna. I sold my old 10-inch Laguna planer combo that I got used with that big package deal, and I sold that, and for what I paid for this, it was pretty much a wash. I've only been able to use this a little bit, but it's a great little unit. Kind of a 3-part deal here. I keep this chop saw on a mobile base instead of having a station because I have a sliding table saw, and really that's a lot better machine. But you definitely need a chop saw in the shop. I had this in the small shop. It was great in the small shop. This is one of those DeWalt tools. I believe I paid somewhere around $200 for this FlexVolt 12-inch chop saw, which is a smoking deal. And I believe I got a free radio. One of the DeWalt Days events that they had up here in Alaska. I'm not even gonna try to pronounce that. This dust collection hood works really good. Maybe one day I'll be able to get, some kind of 3D printed deal for the dust collection for this thing instead of having this big hood on here. But these things are just super inefficient at dust collection. So that's why I have the hood on there. Then this mobile cart is the Bosch T4B Gravity Rise. It's great. I did a bunch of research. That one had the best reviews, so I got that one. It's kind of ridiculous that I paid less for the chop saw than I did the hood in the mobile base. Got to find those deals. Small tools really are a big thing. Let's start with everyday carry. I know that may look a little bit ridiculous, but by having these tools in your pocket all day while you're working, it really eliminates a lot of wasted movement. These mechanical pencils are awesome. These are 2 different sizes. I'll have a link in description below. Gotta have a razor knife. I use this DeWalt one. It fits my hand really well. You'd be amazed how much you can do with this putty knife. Been carrying these for 8 years as well. And you cannot go throughout the day without having a pair of nit picks on you. I always have a pocket light. You wouldn't believe how handy these are. This one also has rechargeable battery and a micro USB. This is my daily carry. It's a Benchmade sheep's foot. The only Milwaukee tools I own. What would you be without having your business card holder not on you? This one's really slim. It only fits a few, but you only need a few. These are the Duluth fire hose pants. They're stretchy. They have plenty of pockets. It's what I use. Forgot one thing. Floss. I always have some floss on me. Anybody else do that? All right, let's talk PPE, personal protection equipment. I like these 3M work tunes. They're Bluetooth. I can listen to my radio podcast while I'm working. These are the 3M safety glasses with the removable liner. And that really helps keep the dust from entering. They seal up good on my face. Also use the 3M respirator. A little bit softer liner here, which forms to your face a little bit better. This is the Klein magnetic angle gauge. Everyone should have one of these to make sure that their table saw, bandsaw, whatnot is adjusted correctly. This is my favorite angle finder. Life was a lot harder before I knew these existed. You can zero it out. You can set it to 90, zero it out. bring it back. These are awesome. I don't know what I would do if I didn't have this red tape. Do yourself a favor, if you've never used this before, go buy a roll. It's by Sure Tape. You gotta make sure you get this kind. It's literally like a big roll of electrical tape. As you can see, I use it a little much. It's my favorite micrometer. I like because I can go between millimeters, inches, and fractions. So out of these bar clamps, I really prefer the pony clamps over the Bessie clamps. These are the 3/4 inch black pipe. I found these used and they were the old made in the USA ones. These still do the job, but I prefer these. The Bessie K-bar clamps are awesome. Love these things. Also love these clamps. These clamps are heavy duty, they're made in Germany. To have this kind of throat depth of 7.5 inches, really nice clamp to have. Bessie clutch style clamp, these are great to have around. You see me use these a ton, I love these things. These are the DeWalt quick clamps, they're rated at 600 pounds. You want to make sure you get the 600 pound version. All these lighter duty clamps, they don't really clamp much. Super light duty, nice heavy duty clamp. Although I wouldn't use this for gluing cutting boards or other laminated things where you should be using a bar clamp. I like the 24 and the 48 versions the best. It is nice to have some of these really long ones. These rare earth magnets. A lot of these machines have specific tools that come with the machine, and if you could just leave them with the machine, you'll always have them. You won't have to go hunt and look for them, and it really is a game changer for efficiency. I haven't been an apron guy, but I tell you what, these leather aprons by Calavera are awesome. So when I'm routing, turning on the lathe, basically for protection. This is a 60-gallon, 5 horsepower. It's a low pressure air compressor. I think it's rated at 130 PSI. Very similar specs to the Ingersoll Rand that I have in the little shop. And I would say I prefer the Ingersoll Rand over this. This one has like this chronic issue of the belt getting loose. Although my Ingersoll Rand, I blew the motor. This pressure regulator is pretty decent. These water separators are not that great. This hose reel has been a great hose reel to have. I would definitely recommend that. This Thunder laser is an amazing fiber laser. It is expensive. It was the first real tool that has been given to me at this level. This laser engraver sure makes life easier. This is my Glowforge unit. I bought this used. I got a great deal on it. It's a nice little CO2 unit. And over the past few years, the laser industry has pretty much kind of exploded. So a lot of options out there. For the most part, it does what I need it to do. These grizzly bases, I'll have a link for them. I have used those grizzly bases on just about all of my tools, and they're hard to beat. I prefer having the 2 wheels that do not move, and then the 2 swivel wheels on one side. If you have all 4 swivel wheels, it's actually a lot harder to push and maneuver around. I recently heard one of my favorite YouTubers complaining about this machine right here. I can only assume it's because he doesn't have one of those. Industrial Widebelt sander. I have a love-hate relationship with this thing, but this is an awesome, awesome tool, especially in the small shop. This is the Laguna Supermax 19 to 38 drum sander. These 2 machines, even though they are both sanders, they're 2 completely different machines. Both of these will do what the other won't do. They share some similarities, but this is not an industrial machine. It's a great, great tool. You've seen how much I've used this in the little shop. In the big shop here, I still have used it a lot. I picked it up used. You can run really small pieces in here. You can't run really small pieces in there. You can't really run coffee table size pieces through here either. That's what that machine's for. I bought it used. The guy I picked it up from only had 1 head running, had no real dust collection. It was used and abused before he got it. And it basically was something that he couldn't use because he didn't have the power supply and he didn't have the dust collection and he didn't fix it. I spent probably 200 hours worth of work. I bought it for $2 grand and I've spent at least $2 grand in parts. It's made by a company called Sanderson, who also, this is the heavy industrial version. They make all of Laguna, Powermatic, and Grizzly's wide belt sanders, which are actually their light industrial wide belt sanders. And it has 1 motor per head. It has a 30 horsepower and a 20 horsepower. They're 3-phase, versus the light duty have 1 single motor running both heads. So the second head is a platen head. The first head is the main drum. The second head is for finishing. And the first head is for dimensioning, for stock removal. I have a 200 amp service here, and this machine literally takes all the available power that the shop has. It's all my air compressor can do to run this thing. And it takes both dust collectors to run this thing, and they won't keep up when I'm running a lot of product. This little thing is one of the most used, coolest little tools in here that you just can't duplicate with any other tools. This is an example. This is male, this is female, but that tool does this job. This is the Powermatic PM1250 electrostatic air filter. Just like the Laguna air filters, those are electrostatic as well. I use this thing on spot, on location, when I'm doing a lot of sanding. So I use this to blow clean air in front of me and move the sawdust away from me. And then all the other air filters take care of the air. And you can watch it on the dilos meter. You really know when you're messing up and you just blew up your shop, or if you're taking care of your air quality. I'm a firm believer in having that air filtration in the shop. Now, first off, dust collection at the source should always be the main priority. But second to that, cleaning the air is huge. I have these 4 A-Flux Laguna air filters. These air filters can move up to 1,200 cubic feet a minute, which will approximately cycle this volume of air every 7 to 8 minutes. Those air filters move some serious air. When all 4 of them are going, you can really feel the air movement through here. And whether you're sweeping, dusting off a table, running a skill saw or some other tool that doesn't have great dust collection, if you can't capture it with your dust collector, then having that backup has really been key. That leads us to the last thing and the number one most important thing in the shop. Because of this air quality dilos meter, you can see the particles that are in the air. I believe it's above 1 micron and above 2 microns. There's so many times in here where you can't visually see what kind of air quality you have, how much dust is in the air, but you can see it right on this dilos air quality meter. And because of that, I know these air filters work really, really well. We had fires last year, the year before, and they were so bad that the state of Alaska issued a warning saying, you know, don't go outside because of the air quality. Well, with that particle meter, I could see that it was up to 1,200 particles outside. And by running these air filters, I brought that 1,200 particles down to like 250. I appreciate you guys sticking with me. I hope you enjoyed this and I hope it helped you guys. I'll have all affiliate links down below in the description. Catch you on the next round.